Hello everybody, beau-hindman back with another monthly Gunpla giant, small giant robot toy review. This time I'm doing the 1 in 100 scale, 1 to 100 scale Overflag. I'm going to go over all this in great detail, so make sure that you watch the entire thing because I'm going to show you where to buy it, what I did to it to customize it, and what I'm trying to do with it with my customization. So let's get right to it. All right, so what is this? This is the 1 to 100 scale Overflag. I bought mine at my local hobby town, but you can get it on Amazon for different prices. I think mine was like $23, $24. It's a 1/100. I'm going to put all the description and everything there into the description of the video. But you can search for 1/100 scale Overflag, like as an over a flag. Kind of a strange name, but that's to be expected in the Gundam universe. We all know that. It's a solid black kit, as you can see, and as normal with my videos, I'm going to be posting all my pictures and stuff right here so that you can see the details. I prefer to do that instead of filming just my hands because I'm used to doing more of a talk show type of format. But anyway, it's the 1 in 100 scale Overflag. It is a, let me find my notes here. It's a kit that transforms, but as kind of per usual with a lot of different Gunpla kits, it can transform in kind of a cruddy way. They're not really known for their fantastic transformations, and to be honest, I don't really get into the transformations that much. This one turns into like a plane type of device, which I'll show you some pictures here. And I'm going to show you or try to explain to you why I wasn't really concerned at all with keeping that transformation ability in this kit. What I liked about the original kit was its solid black color. That's a challenge if you've ever painted or done anything with a solid black Gunpla. You know it can be a challenge because it's hard to bring out the details without just dry brushing. It just can be kind of hard because everything blends in there. You can do panel lining and it doesn't show up unless you do a colored panel lining. You can repaint the entire thing. You can do a lot of different things. What I went for with this is some paint chips, which I'll get to in a minute. So I liked that it was plain black. I also liked the fact that it was very kind of heavy metal looking, if that makes any sense. I have a little red version of this one somewhere back on that back shelf. Maybe I'll show you a picture of that I got years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, and it was one of my first Gunpla, and I did a video review of it, so I'll link that in the description as well. It's sort of like a smaller version, maybe a different variant of this. I'm not 100% sure. I don't watch the anime, or at least I'm catching up on some of the anime, so I'm not really sure. But so I enjoyed the fact that it was kind of a cool looking, sleek kind of kit. They kind of looked little metal, little like it would be in a music video or something like that. Now, what did I not like about the kit? What I didn't like about the kit, I think it's obvious if you know the kit and you see mine right now. I didn't like all of the different wings and paraphernalia that hung off here, and I'll explain what I did and what I kind of did to the kit to make it something that I really liked. Actually, this has turned out to be one of my favorite kits, and I'll explain why. I didn't like how fragile the kit looked. I enjoyed that it looked very tall and thin and all that stuff like that, but I didn't enjoy how fragile it looked. Meaning these legs are so thin, it really appeared to be just very, petering on the edge of just destruction by walking around. At least at first, I didn't like that about this kit. But it was inexpensive. It was in the 20s. One of my favorite YouTubers, Zach Aurelius, I think his name is, Zach Aurelius, recommended it. He ended up liking it. He just did a straight build and did some poses with it. But I ended up since I had the smaller version, I went ahead and went with this. So I enjoyed the fact that it was kind of cheap and just different, really. If you look at it, you're not going to find too many that look like this in the Gundam universe. You're going to find these kind of tall, really super stylized ones and stuff like, I think it's called Evangelion or whatever it's called. Really exaggerated thin robots. So let's talk next about what inspired me with this kit. Okay, so this is where it gets a little bit strange, and if you see from the title, you'll understand. Maybe it's a bit of a stretch, but I have always stretched in everything as a writer, as an artist, as a drummer, whatever. I've always found kind of odd things that seem to only be particular really to me, or that are easier to explain if I explain them. But what inspired me about this kit as I started to build it and as I started to what I like to call reduce it, meaning that I took away from the kit, and I tend to do this more. I try to take away from the kit instead of adding to it. I don't like a lot of weapons. In fact, I like very few weapons, if at all. I definitely don't like the large weapons, the massive weapons. So this one was really fun to reduce down, and I'll explain that in a little bit. What inspired me was if you ever watched the original Mad Max movie, the one where his wife, it's kind of got some cliche in there. His wife becomes a woman in the refrigerator. If you don't know what that means, Google it. And it's kind of a little bit silly and stuff like that. But when you saw it as a kid, you were inspired definitely by one particular thing in that movie, and that was his car, which should be, I believe it's called the Infiltrator, if I remember correctly. Let me see here real quick. An Interceptor, I'm sorry, a V8 Interceptor. I believe it's a Ford, what was it here? It's been a while. Ford Falcon XB GT Coupe 1973 V8 Interceptor. Now what I liked about it, what caught my eye in the first one, and especially kept my attention in the second and all the rest of the movies, there's Mad Max, Road Warrior, the one with the Thunderdome, and then the new one. I think that was the last, only 4. But anyway, what really inspired me about that movie, and inspired a lot of kids, I think, boys and girls alike, is that it had these fantastic creations out of cars. It was a little bit like a monster truck rally type of thing, but with a little more art, I think, to it. They had to be functional because they did a lot of functional stunts. So with this kit, what I was trying to go for, and when I thought of this, it really was to me a lightning moment, like oh my gosh, that's right. And that was that I was going to go for a kit that reminded me of that car in the way that the car was used and maybe beat up a little bit, but it was not rusted. It was not falling apart. It is in the later movies a bit, but if you look in the original Mad Max, Interceptor is together. And it's very fast. But what also inspired me was that I like the idea of a mobile suit or of a giant robot that somebody sits inside. And as a matter of fact, this one comes with little figures. I'll show some pictures here that I haven't painted yet that give you an idea of the scale. They're pretty small. It's kind of nice that it came with those. But I like the idea of a mobile suit or a giant robot that you kind of exist in. It protects you, it transports you, and you survive. You don't necessarily do all the damage in the world with it. It's not necessarily the fastest or the best or the biggest or the strongest or whatever, kind of like me. But it survives. I love the idea of survival in these suits, that these suits were built as tools of survival, not just as in the cartoons are kind of just which one is the larger one with the biggest reactor and it shoots this big fire beam that looks like a falcon or something. That stuff is fun. Don't get me wrong, giant robot battles, but what really is really nice about Gundam, and what I've been liking about, for example, the new Thunderbolt series, is that they are suits that you're inside and that you're occupying. You're sleeping in there, maybe you're or at least taking a nap. You're eating in there. I don't know if you've gone to the restroom in there. I like to imagine that they're almost like Mad Max's car, where they transport him around this hostile environment and he survives thanks in very large part to that vehicle. So this one I wanted to go that it was beat and abused a bit, but it wasn't rusted. It wasn't neglected. As a black kit will, and I'll show some better pictures as I'm showing you here, as it's going through the environment, it's going to get beat up. For a while I was thinking, you know what, this would be a cool underwater craft. But then I thought, no, I wanted to experiment a lot with the scratches on the paint. Now, I'll get to how much I did here and what I think about my scratch job. It's a little too much in some areas for sure. But as I kept doing it, as I kept playing with it and holding it, and especially, you might know this feeling, as I treated it with a top coat, it starts to feel like a toy. It starts to have that plastic sound when you move it, and I start to imagine it more as an actual object in real life. And in this case, this would be the interceptor of the Gunpla universe. Then I started thinking, you know what would be really cool, and this is when this kit really became fantastically just became one of my favorite kits so far, which is really unusual because at first I did not think it was that cool. But when I started to think about it, I thought, you know what? This is a Scout. This is a kit that, or a suit, I should say, that a pilot gets into. Maybe at night. It has stealth technologies. I don't know, some radar or something that helps fight or whatever it does. And it sneaks around. It carries very, very minimal weapons. As a matter of fact, it carries just a shield. This is a shield from another kit. You can't see the kit back on my shelf, but this is a shield from another kit that I painted up for him. And while this kit did come with guns and weapons, a few knives and stuff like that, I was like, no, he has a shield to protect himself. He or she, whoever pilots it, probably a she. But on top of that, what they have to really protect themselves is speed. And I thought, what's really cool are these super long legs, which would make a huge stride. And I thought, well, you know what'd be even cooler is these legs are so long here. Now, granted, they were done this way possibly for transformation and for style, but for me, I'm saying no. These legs are so long because they have such a they have a special, like a shock absorber in them. So as they run along the environment, they actually kind of make it like a quieter step. So it steps lightly, although it's going very fast. It has a very long stride, and there's a lot of, in fact, look at how much of the body is made up of the legs. That means that it's really just a pair of legs with a body attached. And so it's a very fast vehicle. And then I also did the fans here or whatever, the kind of the jetpack. This was a whole thing of wings, and I just reduced. I cut the bottom ones. All I did, and you can see here is a little bitty thing here. Maybe you can see that. That is, I don't know if you can see that or not, but that is a little peg where the back part connected to, and I just folded them in, and I might use them for something someday to attach something. But I like the idea that it could, if it had to dive into water, it could. It was meant to run, almost like a scout mech in Battletech or something like that. It was a very, very fast vehicle, kind of like the V8 Interceptor. So it was all leg. It has these funny knees, but that's good for help absorbing, and there's extra power in there, etc., etc. And then what I did is I also cut off, and I'll show the pictures. The original had these big, silly feet. Cut those clean off, and then I said those would be cool as almost like a little sharp point to kick with, another defensive weapon. So picture this kit almost like an ostrich, or a stealth ostrich or something like that. It's very fast. It's very, very powerful legs and possibly a kick. But the idea is that it gets into the middle of battle or near it, does some stealthy reconnoiter, looks around and gets some radar imagery and sends it back, and then it gets the hell out of there. These big fins here could be the transmission dealy thingies, whatever you call it, for radar, for communications. Maybe it carries advanced communications. And my mind started going, this is what I like about Gunpla, is you can really build a kit, and if you're into the lore and into the story, then you can really kind of follow that story if you want. Or you could do what I do a lot when I customize something. I come up with my own concept, my own idea, and I really fall in love with it. And even the ideas I have aren't really that out of step with the actual real lore or story, because it's still a giant robot that's still doing giant robotic things, So that's kind of what inspired me, was Mad Max's Interceptor. Look it up. If you've never watched the movie, I don't know what's wrong with you. Go watch it. Like I said, there's some kind of typical, his wife dies, and so he's now inspired to go get revenge. That kind of typical stuff. And there's some lame story parts, but other than that, the cars, the vehicles are very Gunpla-like in the way that they're very heavy metal, if that makes sense. They're clashing, they're banging together. It's really, really cool. So that's what inspired me about the kit. Okay, so next I want to talk about real quick, what did I do to the kit? I kind of mentioned it earlier. I took the fins off here. I'll show some before and after pictures. You can also see if you have the kit yourself or if you look it up online. I reduced this whole back area very, very, very. All I wanted were these two main thruster kind of things, and so that was pretty easy to do. I literally cut them apart, sanded it down, and then since I'm doing so much chipping, I was able to hide a lot of the issues with chipping. I took off the lower part here. I didn't even use that at all, as I said. I cut off the toes, and that's pretty much, I didn't do much else crazy to it. Now, as far as a paint job, what I did is I just used a silver paint, I used an acrylic silver, which one? I'll list it in the description once I get it. And I just did a paint chipping. Now I'll be showing you photos of this as I talk about it, because the paint chips, I think I did a pretty good job. I want to say that I could have done a lot better, but what's cool about it, a really extreme paint chipping job like this, is that you really, let's see if you can get him to focus here. It really, really does teach you a lot. Hate this stupid camera. And I learned so much from this. I know that I'm getting better at chipping. Chipping is one of my favorite things to do because it's one of the easiest weathering options you have. That gives the kit a little character. That's really one of the easiest to do. Rust and weathering and mud and actual discoloration and stuff gets to be the next step up. I can do that stuff, but I often find that I don't like to make kits that look like they sat around and rusted. They're used. They might be beat up, but they're definitely not sitting around getting rusted. So I like that I did this chipping job. I like that I used some of the silver paint in the back here, and then I did a little bit of a grease work in there. What I like to do is I use a silver paint on any parts that are undercarriage or maybe are joints, and then I'll grease those up using a wash. And what it does is it makes it a different color metal that looks like a metal that might have grease or wash or something, or dirt or something embedded in the grease. Other than that, I didn't do much else to it. I kind of discolored the white parts a bit. There's just a little white here on the front, which you can probably see in the photos. His one hand here that it is open, I painted each individual finger. Very easy to do, almost a dry brushing technique. And then I chipped the top of the hand, and it makes it look like that would be very chipped, I think, because the hand is grabbing so many different options. And other than that, I didn't do much else. The little parts inside here that you can see that are kind of lined, they're really hard to see because they're small, but it's a nice little detail. And down here on the crotch area, those are nice little kind of details. That was a simple dry brushing on the vent stuff, and then I panel lined behind it. The good news about the black kit is that if you panel line on it, let's say you paint on something and then you panel line on top of it with some of the black left over, the panel lining is not as visible as far as the leftover panel lining. It can still be a panel line, but you don't have to clean it up as aggressively, if that makes sense. But other than that, and then I treated it with a flat coat and then a top coat, a more glossy coat. It didn't work very well. It did not come out very even, but I actually really enjoy that. I like kits that seem, again, that they have possibly some different coatings on different areas, just like your car. Your rubber part's not going to have the same kind of coating your paint part would, and et cetera, et cetera. So that's really pretty much what I did. What do I like about it? I like the fact that it's a good chip job in some ways. I don't like the fact that I think I did too much. The more I look at paint chip jobs on kits, the more I realize that you can do a very small amount and it still gives a really, really nice impression of wear. So you can do like just barely along the edges, which this one pretty much has some kind of paint chipping or line work along almost every single edge. So I would probably have done, if I had to redo this, I would have done less. But what I like about it is it's a lesson learned. I don't have to worry about figuring that out later. I figured it out on this model kit, and it still looks pretty good. As a matter of fact, I really like it the more I look at it. So it's one of these kits that it doesn't really carry on camera because it's solid black, but in person it really, really reflects well. So that's what I don't like about it. It's maybe a little bit too much. I love the fact that I cut apart just the right amount. It has this cool jet backpack thing for him or her to get out of trouble if it needs to. Or it looks almost underwater, like those are little turbines that could go underwater. So it gives your imagination some excuses there to really dream up some stuff. So I like that about the kit. Again, though, I just wish the chipping would have been, I should have pulled back a bit in a lot of places, but I learned a lot, and that's good. I don't really care on my kits if I even finish them. For example, I didn't finish the feet on this guy yet. The feet on this guy would be completely worn and or a different color. Something about them would be unique from the rest of the body because they are so in contact with the ground constantly, and it's so dependent on running or walking. But I don't really care. Sometimes if I feel like I'm done with the kit, I just put it aside and say it's done, even with its mistakes, and I might move on. I might come back to those feet later, but honestly, I doubt I will. I'll just, on the next one, it'll be even more improved. So there's some really nice areas on this kit, some not so nice areas on the kit. But I have to say that overall it's become one of my favorite kits. Before I give a sum up in here, how does this thing move? What is how flexible is it? Well, I'm just going to be putting up some photos. This is the easiest way to illustrate it. Otherwise, I could put it on a turntable. I don't have a turntable. There's your turntable. But it does some crazy fun stuff. And one of the reasons it does this really fun stuff is it's a combined. It's transformable, but you can't really see this. Maybe I'll show it better in a photo. How it connects, how the legs connect, give you the option to kind of, you can fluctuate the height of the kid as well, but you can really put him in some fantastic poses. The arms are a little bit impeded by the shoulders, but other than that, I'll show you some cool poses. This thing is really posable. The head, not so much. But because you can bend the body in such contortions, really, the head doesn't need to be able to move that much, I don't think. But other than that, fantastic freaking kit. I at first I was kind of like, it was okay. I started painting it and reducing its kit, meaning that taking away parts, and I just started falling more and more in love. I developed this idea, and then I said, "Hey, this reminds me of Mad Max's Interceptor," which, again, if you look it up, you'll either know what I mean or not. But there's something about a good old item that the hero or heroine or somebody has that is dependable. It's not the best in the world, but it's their item. And that's how I feel about this kit. I really enjoy it. So let me know what you think in the comments. Please subscribe. I've been YouTubing since 2007. I used to do several videos a week. Now that I'm much more of an adult, I guess. I'm trying to just do one a month, because what I'm doing is I'm doing one really good custom build a month, or at least I'm trying to. So keep an eye out there. If you see any other videos pop up, please subscribe to me or leave a comment, because I love answering questions and getting into discussions about my kits and about how I approach model building, which is a little bit more philosophical than some people do. Look at that. He can even move like that. To me, they're just wonderful toys, and they just open up your imagination. Fantastic. Enjoy. Go get it. You can pick it up for about under $30. This is the 1/100 scale Overflag. A really neat kit. I was really pleasantly surprised, and now it's one of my favorite builds. I think I'm going to do some more stuff to it the more I play with it here, actually. So have a good one, everybody. I'll talk to you soon, and I'll see you in 1 month. Goodbye.